Welcome to this particular video. Here is a very short training on what data and what data analysis is all about. So you are very much welcome to this particular video. And like you can see on your screen, I said by the end of this training, right, you'll be able to tell someone exactly what data is without confusing words. And also you'll be able to spot different types of data in your daily life. You'll see how they shape decision everywhere and explain why learning about data is superpower in today's world. So you're very much welcome once again. We are looking at understanding the world of data and data analysis. Okay, so let's get right into it. Now, to start with, before we go into what data analysis is all about, the very first thing I want to look into is what is data itself, right? Because we're looking at data analysis. So let's take it one by one. So let's start with data, and that's why I'm asking this question. What is data really? Now, think of data as any fact or detail that is written down, saved, or recorded so that you can use it later. So when you have any detail, no matter what it is, that is written down, it is saved, or it is even recorded for the purpose of you using it later, that is a data. Now, this could be numbers, it could be words, it could be dates, it could be pictures, it could be sound, it could be videos. In fact, it could even be the number of steps you take in a day. For those that use smartwatch, you definitely know how to get that, right? Using your smartwatch. So all of these things are data. Now, every time something is measured, every time something is counted, or anytime something is recorded, that particular thing is what's a data. Now, let's look at this everyday example. That is example that almost everybody can relate with. For example, you buy 3 loaves of bread at 600 naira each. And that particular thing, it's a data, right? Your phone says you walked 7,000 plus step. That particular number is a data. Now you are filling a particular form. Let's say you're filling a school form. Now you ticked a particular box. Let's say you tick female in a section that says gender. That youth ticking that is what data. Now you took a picture of your lounge. That picture too is data. So you can see that data is all around. Just like I said, it could be a number, it could be words, it could be date, it could be pictures. So it means the pictures that you even have on your phone, all of those things are data. The videos you have on your phone, the videos you watch online, all of those things are data. The sounds you listen to, all of those things are data. So basically, you will see that data is like everything that surrounds you. Data is everywhere. Every time you are relating with data, every time you are also generating data. And I said, data on its own is like an unbaked dough. It is not ready to eat. So that is what data is, an unbaked dough, right? You cannot just heat it. For example, you want to make chin chin, you brought out your flour, you've mixed everything, but you've not fried it, right? It is uncooked, right? So you cannot just pick it and start eating. No. But of course, is it useful? Definitely it is useful. So that's what data is like. Let's continue. Now look at this journey that I'm painting here. The data to what? Action journey. Now here is what happened. Now data, like I said, is facts, right? Put it raw facts. For example, 8 cups sold on Monday, 10 on Tuesday. That is data, just raw facts. And just like I said in the previous slide, I said it's like an unbaked dough. It is not ready to eat. Now, what about information? Information, these are when these facts are organized so that they now make sense. For example, it says juice sales goes up on Wednesday. That makes much sense. So we've moved from data, we now move into information. And from that information, we move into insight. Now, what is the insight here? Insight is a conclusion or a discovery from the information. And remember, the information is also based on the data. An example here says, I sell the most juice on Saturday. Okay. And afterwards, that will now lead to action. What does that mean? Action means you are now doing something with the insights. So you know that you sell more juice on Saturday. What do you now do? You hire extra help on Saturday so that you can meet up the target. So that is the journey from data to information, from information to insight, from insight to action. So basically, what I'm still trying to explain here is the word data. Now look at this example that I have on my slide. It says, juice stand example, right? Imagine you sell juice for 7 days and write down, right? The total number of juice you are selling, and that's the data that we have there. Like I said, data could be anything, it could be numbers. So whatever we have here is data. So for example, if you're into sales or you sell something, you have a shop and all of that, then you put down a record of whatever you've sold so far. That particular record is data. So when you notice that weekends have the biggest sales, what have you found? Information. But how did you get the information? From the data you have written down. Now, when you decide to make more juice on weekend, you are acting on an insight. So basically, that is what data is. We'll move on. Now, we now have different types of data because not all data are the same, right? Just like not all food tastes the same way. Now, knowing the different types of data helps to choose the right way to study it. So we want to look at the different types of data and what it means, what it looks like, so that when you see, you can identify it. Just like not all food tastes the same way. Now, let's start with by meaning. And by meaning here, I'm saying qualitative and quantitative. So when I say qualitative, I'm referring to words and labels. And in this category, or in this section, it is categories, not numbers. So here, we're not talking about number. When we're dealing with qualitative, we're talking about categories. And in this section as well, they are divided into two. That is nominal and ordinal. Now, what is nominal? Nominal means names with no order. For example, red, blue, green, any other name you can think of. Say your name. For example, my name, Oluwaseun. That's a nominal data. It has no particular order. But then we have ordinal qualitative data. Here, it has an order, but the steps are not equal, right? Big, bigger, biggest, right? We have poor, good, excellent. So that has an order, but the steps are what? They are not equal. That is what we mean by ordinal qualitative data. So qualitative data here has to do with words and label, also has to do with categories. Now, moving on to the next, we have the quantitative data. Now, the quantitative data is in terms of quantity. So, of course, we're talking about numbers, but it's things that you can count or things that you can measure. And these also are divided into two. We have discrete and continuous, right? Now, what is discrete? Discrete means whole numbers. For example, 3 children, 25 books, right? 10 pens. Now, what about continuous? Continuous can be measured with decimal. For example, 1.75 meter tall, 36.5 degrees Celsius temperature. So that is quantitative data. It can be counted or can be measured, and also it can either be discrete or continuous. So that is all about qualitative and quantitative data. Now, by shape, now data can be structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. Let's look at this. What does it mean to be structured? For data to be structured means it is neatly arranged in tables and spreadsheets. Now, for example, those that work with Excel, if you've worked with Excel before, you've seen what the data set looks like, right? That is a structured data we're talking about. Excel, CSV. What is CSV? Comma separated value. Of course, this might be a little bit technical. That is this particular word that I'm using, right? But when you start learning data analysis, you discover these are just very simple terms that we use almost every day. Now, what about unstructured data? Now, structured data here, we're talking about messy emails. So even the emails that you have, all of those things are data. The pictures of your phone, everything is data. The videos that you have, they're all data. Even the voice note that you send, everything is what? Data. You can see that every day you have data around you. Now, what about semi-structured data? Here, we are talking about hashtags, but has no fixed columns. Okay, so that is just all about the type of data we're talking about in terms of shape. So it's structured, unstructured, or semi-structured data. Now, by time, and this is divided into three. We have cross-sectional, we have time series, we have panel. Now, we'll talk about cross-sectional. What are we talking about? We're talking about a snapshot in time. For example, a survey today. So if you take a survey, that particular thing is what? It's a data. Now, time series repeated over time. That is daily temperature. You're getting your temperature on a daily basis. That particular record as well is also a data. For panel, the same people or items tracked over time. That also is data. So what I'm trying to do here is to ensure that I'm coming from a level where anybody that has zero knowledge of tech can understand whatever I'm going to explain at the end of the day when I start looking at the word data analysis. So I'm bringing it from a very relatable point of view. Now, let's see how data. Now, imagine I've not started explain data analysis at all. We're still looking at data. So, how data shapes the world. So, how does the word data, how does it shape the entire world? Now, for example, let's look at everyday life. For example, maps. Google Map uses phone location data to show traffic jam. Now, if you want to go out, especially those that stay in Lagos, Nigeria, because of the traffic in Lagos, Nigeria, one of the things most people do is just to bring out their phone before they set out sometimes and check, oh, I'm going through this particular route. For example, you are going from the mainland to the island. So they are checking, oh, is there traffic on the road? Basically. And from their Google Map, they are able to just know that because Google Map is actually going to show them that. So the question is, how was Google able to do that? Google did that using data that they have. You can see how powerful data is. Another example here in everyday life is music and movies. Now, Netflix and Spotify, in fact, YouTube and every other platform you can think about, they check what you've watched, listen to, and suggest new one you might like. Everybody should be able to relate with this. For example, let's say you watch more of romantic movies on YouTube, right? If you close your YouTube and you try open it again, at least the first one, two, three, four, five movie suggestions they are going to have will be romantic movies. Why? You have given YouTube a particular data. And what is that data? What you have watched so far. So the videos you have watched so far, the things you've done on that particular app is a data to that particular app itself. Then they now use it to recommend for because the fact that you've been coming to their platform to watch a particular niche. So it means that you are much more interested in that. And what they do with that data is that they now recommend more of it for you. So everybody can relate with this. How is that possible? It's through the power of data. Another one in everyday life is shopping. Now, online stores remember what you browse and recommend similar products. Simple. Everybody too should be able to relate with it, especially if you buy things online. So based on your past performance or based on the things you've searched so far on that particular website, you are trying to purchase online and the things you've purchased so far. So what happened? All of those things become data. Then they use that to now suggest more of similar thing because there's a high possibility that that is what you always want to get. Now, fitness, smartwatches track your heart rate, step, and sleep. For those that use smartwatch, you will know that very well. And in security, bank uses data to spot suspicious activity instantly. So data is very, 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 very important. Something that we cannot do without. So let's see how it shapes the industry world. Now, the first one in retail. Now, in retail, they used to predict what we sell and avoid it running out of stock. That is in retail. So, if you're into retail and you're not working with data and you are not using data, then there's a very big problem. We'll look at it in detail when we get to data analysis. Also in finance, right? You decide who get loan by studying payment history. For those that probably have used loan app before, or those that try to get the loan in a bank, right? You will discover that some people are eligible to loan, while some people are not eligible to loan. Some people are eligible to a particular amount, let's say ₦1 million. Some people are not even eligible for 500,000. Why? How did they get through to that? Why is everybody not eligible to the same amount, right? That particular person trying to get data, or rather, that particular person trying to get loan already give that finance organization a data. And what is that data? They study the person payment history. So that payment history is actually data to that particular organization. So what do they do with it? They now use it to decide whether you get a loan or not. That is how powerful data is. What about healthcare? Healthcare help to plan hospital staff and supplies based on patient data, right? Healthcare, especially in an hospital, the data that they generate on a daily basis is actually very much important because they use that to make a lot of decisions, of course, to plan their staffing and of course how to satisfy their patients. And in logistics, right, it helps to shorten delivery time by finding the next or by finding the fastest route. And also in manufacturing, they use machine sensors to fix problems before they happen. All of these are done with data. Now, marketing, spend money on ads that bring in the most customer. That is why for those that are into probably Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and all of that, there's something we call you target a particular demographic, right? So how did some people fall into a particular demographic is based on the things they've done on that particular platform, right? So you now target them. But how was, let's say, if by using Facebook ad, Facebook will able to get that is based on those people activity. Now that their activity now is data to Facebook, that Facebook now use it for what? Ads when you want to run ads. So basically, that is how data shape the world. Now, the question is, why data or why is data a big deal in today's world? Number one, because data is a big deal in today's world. Either we like it or not, we live in a world full of data. We live in a world where we humans, we are generating data every second. So why is it a big deal? Number one, better decision. So it means when you now start taking advantage of this data that you have, you start making better decisions. You will no longer be guessing because data shows the facts. Number two, competitive edge. Now, the company that understands data best usually wins. That is just it. So if you are in an organization or you run a particular business and you want to always win, one thing you cannot do away with is data. Now, it also helps to save time and money, right? That is, you automate work and find faster ways to do things. And also personalization, customer love product tailored just to them. And how do you do all of these things is through the power of data. When we get to data analysis, you understand all of this better. Now, also it helps to spot risk. That is, we can stop fraud or mistake before they cause trouble. And also it is a career gold mine. Data job exists in every industry. That is, so if you are into data, right, either in data analysis, data science, data engineering, all they exist in all the industries. So it's a career gold mine, basically, and one of the best to pursue. So here is a big question. Of course, the main reason why you are watching this video, which is what then is data analysis. Or basically, you can say data analytics, right? We'll look at the difference between the two words and all of that later. So what then is data analysis? And of course, like I said in the beginning of this video, the aim of this particular video you are watching so that you'll be able to tell what data analysis is all about, right? I want to explain it in such a way that even a 10-year-old can listen to this and of course understand and can give you relatable example of what data analysis is all about. So let's look at what I have here. I said, imagine you have a big box full of puzzle pieces. At first, it's just messy pile. You can't use the full picture. It doesn't make any sense. So if you have puzzle, for example, if you have kids and you have this particular puzzle that they play with, maybe Ben 10 and all of that, everything is scattered. Does it make sense? No. Well, can you actually make sense of it? Yes. So at first, when you're looking at that particular puzzle, what does it make? What does it look like? It look like a messy thing. Do you understand? You can't see the full picture. So what is now data analysis? Data analysis is like putting these puzzles together so that you can see the full picture and understand what is going on. So when you have this Ben 10 puzzle with you, and then you start arranging it left, right, moving and all of that, and then you now have a full picture of that Ben 10. That is what data analysis. Because what have you done? That particular puzzle that makes no sense because everything is scattered, because everything is messy. What did you do to it? You put it together, then you start arranging. Now, arranging it requires a lot of skill. So you must be skilled and all of that. So when you move from one side to the other, and then you now have the full picture that now makes sense to you, what you have done is data analysis. So data analysis is like taking a bunch of facts, numbers, or details. That is, data analysis is like taking data. Remember, everything we said so far, everything we talked about data, either it's a number, a picture, number of steps you take in a day, video, voices, any other thing you can think of based on what I've explained so far. When you pick all of these facts, right, then you now figure out what they mean. And that is not just it. When you figure out what they mean, for the purpose of what? So that you can make smart decisions. That is data analysis. I want to believe this is very clear, right? You take all of these data, find out what they mean, what they are saying, right? Then you can now make smart decisions. Basically, I love to call data noise, right? What is noise? Noise is an unpleasant sound. Just like we've learned in primary and secondary school. Noise is an unpleasant sound. So when you now take that noise and you add rhythm to it, it becomes music. Because music is a pleasant sound. So basically, we're still talking about sound. But what we just did that moved from noise to music is that we had rhythm to that sound. So that is the same thing as data analysis. Your data is like your noise. Does it make sense? No. Do you understand? But actually, it can make sense. How do you make your data make sense? Or how do you make your noise make sense? You start adding rhythm to that noise. So when you add rhythm to it, it now makes sense. The same thing as data. All you have to do is add rhythm to it. Then it makes sense and you can now make smart decision with it. That is data analysis. Now, of course, another way to picture it, raw facts. Now, here we'll be using very, very relatable example. Raw data, which is data, fact, is like unwashed vegetables from the farm. Organize information, you wash, you cut, you prepare them. Meaningful insights, you cook the vegetable into a meal. Inform action, you heat the meal to get energy. So data, for example, is like our raw foods. For example, vegetable. Let me be more precise. Let's say ugu, right? Let's say ugu leaf. Can you eat it when you go to the market to buy it? Of course, you can eat it when you've cooked it. But you just bringing it from the market. You cannot eat it. Do you understand? But is it useful? Yes. That is your data. So that particular vegetable that you have, for example, is something you can relate with data. For example, your raw beans, raw food, raw rice. Do you understand? Can you eat it just like that? No. But will it make sense later on? Yes. So your data is related to something like that. So raw fat is like your washed vegetable. Organize information. That is why you now take your vegetable, you wash it, you cut it, you prepare it so that you can cook it. Meaningful insight is when you now cook it into a meal, right? Now, informed action is okay. Now you can now eat the vegetables that you have washed and prepared, that you have cooked. Now you can eat it. So data analysis is not just about numbers. What data analysis is about is that you are turning raw information into a story that can help you act wisely. Now, the end goal is the most important thing. Do you understand? So it means you are turning all of this raw fat, raw information into a story that will help you, right, to act wisely. So basically, it means if you are into data analysis, what you are eventually going to help someone do is to help them act wisely. So imagine what you do as a profession is to help people act wisely. Imagine how important it will be to any industry or to anybody. Let's continue. Now, what is the purpose of data analysis? Why do we even do data analysis? Why is it important? Now, I put something I said, if you don't analyze your data, you are basically making decisions like you are blindfolded or just guessing. Now, I want you to paint this picture in your head. Imagine you are walking on a major road. Then you decide to blindfold yourself, use something to cover your face, and you're walking on the road. What happens? A lot of things can happen. Number one, you can get knocked down by a vehicle, a bike, or God forbid, a trailer. You can fall into the gutter. Anything can happen. So imagine you're walking. That just doesn't make any sense. Walking on the road and you're blindfolded. So if you don't analyze the data that you have, that is the same thing you are doing. For example, you have a business. Did you get what I'm trying to say? Or if any organization, of course, generate data every day, just like I said, data revolves around us. So imagine all of these data are not being analyzed. What does it mean? It means that it's as though the person is walking on the road, blindfolded, or you want to make the decision, and the way you are making the decision is what? Is that you are just guessing. That is what data analysis is all about. Because you don't want to walk on the road blindfolded. You don't want to make decisions based on guesses. You want to make decisions based on a particular fact. Now, here's what data analysis helps you to do. Number one, it helps to answer questions. For example, says what or why are sales dropping in June? So what will data analysis do? Data analysis will help you to dig into the numbers and find the real reason. So basically, data analysis helps in answering day-to-day questions. And trust me, businesses on daily basis are asking questions. But who is going to answer this question? Anybody that has a skill called data analysis. Because your major work is that you are answering questions. And imagine the number of questions that people are having on daily basis, businesses want answers to. So, and you know that wherever there is a need, right, and you can provide solution to that particular need, you become valuable. Number two, data analysis helps to solve problems. For example, how can we reduce delivery delay? I talked about logistics initially. We were talking about how data shape the world. Talking about logistics. So data helps to solve, or data analysis, what you do is that you solve problem. That is one of the reasons why we do it. Number one, answer questions. Number two, you are constantly solving problems. And when you have questions like this, logistics, what will data analysis do? You look into delivery time, look at route, look at driver schedule, and then is able to spot the problem. Now, not just spotting the problem, after spotting the problem, you provide solution to it. Number three, as to the purpose of data analysis, It helps to make decision based on evidence. For example, in the law court, judges don't just give verdicts. They don't just give their judgments. There has to be evidence. The same thing. So instead of thinking that, oh, I think this will work, you can say, I know this is work. Why? Because of the power of data analysis. And you can say, oh, this is the data to prove it. You are not just guessing. You are not assuming, right? Like someone will always say, assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. You don't just assume, because assumption can mean a lot of things, and it can lead you to something that you don't even want in the first place. Now, another purpose for data analysis, which is what? Find opportunities. I said it helps us to answer questions. It helps to solve problem. It helps to make decisions based on evidence. And also it helps to find opportunities. Now, sometimes the number reveals indie chances for growth. That is, those numbers, those data. There are a lot of things are hidden within the data. A lot. Like I used to say, data is always speaking to us. All we have to do is understand the language of data. So sometimes those numbers, those data, there are a lot of hidden chances for growth in that data. All you have to do is discover it. How do you discover it? In the place of analysis is where you discover it. Now, for example, you notice that people buy more of a certain product during the rainy season. How will you notice it? Because you have the data to prove it. So what do? That particular product, when that particular time is approaching, what do? You have more of it so that you can sell more. Now, the fifth one here, it says spot risk early. So you can detect warning signs before they become disasters. Example, backtrack unusual activities to stop fraud. Okay, I've explained that in the previous slide. So in short, the purpose is better decision and better outcome. That is why we do data analysis. Every day, businesses are making decisions. Every day, even you as an individual, you are making decisions. So we want to make this decision not based on guessing, not based on assumption, not being blindfolded, right? We want to make it based on an evidence. And the only way to do that is through data analysis. Now, let's now look at the steps in the data analysis process. Now, we're going to bring this home. That is, we're going to relate it to something that almost everybody is into in their daily life. Now, we'll think of these steps like following a recipe. That is, you want to make a meal. If you skip a step, your meal, that is the result, may not turn out right. For example, let's say you want to cook noodles, right? You have to follow a particular step. If you miss one, or you want to cook fried rice, you want to cook vegetable soup, if you skip a particular step, what happens? Your meal will not turn out right. For example, you want to cook your rice. At the point where you need to put your, what's it called? Salt, then you skip that part. You've cooked your rice, but at the end of the day, what happens to your rice? You will not like the taste. So I want to look at these steps in the data analytics process. Now, the first step in the data analysis process is that we collect. What does it mean to collect here? Here we gather the data that we need. Now we understand what data is. So when I'm mentioning the word data, we know what this is all about. So we gather the data that you need. And where do we gather data? We have several sources to gather data. It can be from surveys, it can be from databases, you can gather it from websites, from sensors, from logs, or even manual record that you write down manually. Now let's look at an example here. It says a bakery collects sales data from the cash register every day. That is data collection. Now, let me bring it home. You want to make your vegetable soup, right? What is the first thing you need to do? You need to get the things you will need. So what do? You go to the market to buy your vegetable, buy your pepper, buy your fish, buy your pomo, your cow skin, buy your meat, and every other thing you're going to need. That is the first step. You go and collect. Now, after collecting, what do? You now clean. Talking about data analysis. You now clean, right? Now, this is like you're washing the vegetables before cooking. Now, you've gone to the market, you're back home. You have all the things you need to make your vegetable soup. Is on the table. Is that all? No. So what happened? You pick your vegetable, you start washing them, your meat, you start washing them, your fish, you start washing your pomo, you start washing everything, right? That is the second step in this analytic process. So when you've gathered all your data that you need, what happens? You start cleaning them in case of errors and inconsistencies. So in this cleaning, what do? You fix errors, you remove duplicates, you correct spelling mistake, you fill in missing values, and every other thing that is needed. Of course, how do you do all of this? There's a technical skill to it. That is why you now go and learn data analysis. You go for a training in data analysis, and all of this, you will now learn it. Now, for example, you are changing the spelling choco cake and chocolate cake into one correct spelling. So that's part of cleaning. Now, the third step is that you now analyze. So this analysis is now you cooking the food. You've got to the market, which is you collected the data. You are back home, you've washed it, which is you are cleaning the data. The third now is you are analyzing, that is you want to cook the food. After you've washed your vegetable, everything has been sliced, your meat is washed, your fish is washed, your pomo is washed, every other thing you have is washed. What is the next thing? You start cooking it. Now, this cooking now is you analyzing your data. And what you do here, you use calculation, comparisons, average, and sometimes statistical methods. These are technical skills that you will now learn when you start learning data analysis. For example, you use these tools if you're using Excel, Power BI, SQL, Python. Now, there has been this misconception that, oh, you have to be a genius in mathematics before you can analyze. No, because you are not doing the calculations yourself. Tools have been designed to do all of these things without you stressing yourself. All you have to learn how to make use of the tools. Simple. Now, an example of analyzing here, you can count how many times each cake was sold in a month. And that is you cooking your food. Now, the fourth step is that you now visualize. That is, you now show the results. You show the result of your analysis, you use graphs, you use charts, you use dashboards so that people can understand quickly. For example, a bar chart showing which cake sells the most. That is, you use something that once you see, everybody understand what is going on. And in relating that with the food we'll be talking about is that you have not cooked your food, you've cooked your vegetable soup. So what happens? You will now serve it in a plate. So everybody can see, okay, we have Igbo food here. There's pomo inside, there's fish inside, and every other thing. That is what we visualize, which is the fourth step in the digital analytical process. Now, the last step, which is the fifth step, is that you now interpret. So when you visualize, and we can now see, we now explain what the number means and what should we do next. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is for us to make smarter decision or better decision. For example, say, oh, chocolate cake sells 3 times more than other cakes. So what should we do? We should bake more of chocolate cake. That is interpret. And in this instance is the fact that after our food has been served, what do we now do? We eat the food. So what are the 5 steps again? Number 1, we collect our data. Number 2, we clean our data. Number 3, we analyze it. Number 4, we visualize it. Number 5, then we interpret. Just like we go to the market, we bought our food stuff that we need, and afterwards we washed it. After washing, we decide to cook it. After cooking, we serve it. After serving it, then we eat it. That is data analysis, right? The 5 steps in data analysis. Now, a simple example, let's use a bakery. Now, a bakery, what do? You collect. That is, you get all the bakery's daily sales record. And after getting, what do? You clean it. How do you clean? You fix any errors, right? Afterwards, you analyze, you count the number of sales per product. You draw a bar chart to compare the sales of each of the products. And what happens? You interpret the chart that you have by saying chocolate is the best seller. What do we do afterwards? Make more to increase sales. Data analysis is as simple as that. Now, let's look at examples of data analysis in different industries. I have just a few of them here. Like I said initially, I said data analysis is applied or applicable in all the industries, all. Because what we're trying to do is to make smarter decisions based on data. Now, for example, in retail, at these shop and stores, what is data analysis to do? It helps us to predict which product will sell most next season, improve store layouts based on customer or shopping pattern. There is no retail store that is serious about business that doesn't have a data analyst, that doesn't make use of data analysis, right? That doesn't have a data analyst. In healthcare, you track which treatments work best for patients, monitor disease outbreak using hospital reports. In finance, right, that is bank and investments, you can detect on unusual account activity to prevent fraud. And you also study market data to decide where to invest money. In education, measure student performance and attendance to improve teaching, support students who might need extra help. You can see the power of this analysis. It is applied in all the industry you can think about. Of course, just have just a few here. If I'm to write everything out, I think I will have more than 30 to 40. Now, of course, in logistics, just like I said, helps to plan the fastest delivery route to save time and also predict how many packages will be sent next week. In marketing, you can use to track ads to see which brings the most customer, understand customer age, location, and interest, right? And send them the right offers. Now, let's look at these three words. We have data analysis, or three concepts: data analysis, data analytics, and data science. These are three things that a lot of people are confused together now, but they are confused as to what it actually means. We're going to be comparing the three so that we can have a better understanding of what they actually mean. So in order to explain this, we'll be using this analogy. Now let's start simple. Imagine you are in a house with a fridge and you want to know what to do about the food inside that particular fridge. For example, you have a fridge at home. You have, let's say, eggs in your fridge. Now you want to know what to do with your egg. Now, what question will data analysis ask? Data analysis will say, looking at what is inside the fridge right now, is going to ask, do we still have eggs left? That is a question data analysis will be asking. For example, in the business world, we say, which product sold most last month? That is a question that data analysis will be asking and be providing answers to. Why data analytics? Data analytics will now look at patterns and prediction. That is, looking at how quickly the food runs out every week. Then to now predict when it will finish. For example, you have 10 eggs left in your fridge based on the analysis question. Now, what data analytics is now doing is that, okay, based on how it runs out every week, that is, if we keep eating 3 eggs a day, when will the egg run out? For example, in business, that is based on last year data, which products are likely to sell more this Christmas? Now, you discover that, oh, you eat 33 eggs on daily basis, right? Now, and you have 10, or you stock 10, or let's say you stock 15 every week. So it means it's going to take how many days to consume your 15? That will be 5 days. So if by chance you now have, let's say, 10 eggs left in your fridge, then you have an answer to your question. Because you know that, okay, based on the fact that I eat 3 per day, and then I have 10 left. So it means that 10 in the next 3 days, I'll be left with just one. So I know I have to restock. That's data analytics. So data analytics now is looking at patterns. And based on the pattern, it can now make a prediction. In business world, oh, we discovered that in the last 10 years or in the last 5 years, all the data that we generated so far, once it's December period, we sell more of teddy bears. So what should we do this particular year? Or once it's December, we stock more teddy bears so that we can make more sales. As simple as that. Why data science, on the other hand? What data science does is that it now builds smart system based on the questions that have been answered in data analysis and data analytics. What data science now does is that it's now built smart system. That is, it creates a system, and what that system will do is that it will automatically track how much food is left and send a message to your phone when you need to buy more. For example, using that particular fridge example, when I said that, oh, you now have 10 eggs left, you discover that you take 3 per day. So that means the next 3 days, you're going to run out of egg. So what data science will now do is that it will now create a smart model for you. What that model will do is that it will automatically track the total number of eggs left. Then it will send a message to you to tell you that, oh, you have 10 eggs left. You take 3 per day based on the analytics that has been done. That means in the next 3 days, you're going to run out of egg. So this is what you should do. That is what data science is. Looking at the question that we have on the slide, it says, can we build an app that tells us when to buy eggs and even suggest recipes? An example in business is build a machine learning model and recommend product for each customer automatically. But how will you recommend it? Based on the analysis and the analytics that has been done. You've looked at their pattern, the things they have been doing so far, then you can now recommend to them. For example, the Netflix, Spotify, Audiomack, YouTube example I gave earlier. So how does it happen that automatically you discover that that particular, say, kind of playlist that you listen to, the next time you're trying to listen to a new song, you are getting something like that. Or the kind of movie you watch, say a romantic movie, or let's say gospel movie, or any kind of movie that you're watching, right? Discover that when you open your app, let's say Netflix, you are getting a recommendation of such. Why? Is because there's a smart system that now automatically track the things you have done so far. So when it tracks all of that and can now discover a pattern, so you can now use that system or that model to now suggest to you. That is data science. I want to believe this is getting clearer. Now let's look at a very quick analogy into data analysis, data analytics, and data science. Now, data analysis, right? You are reading a thermometer to see today's temperature. In data analytics, you are studying weather pattern to predict tomorrow's temperature. So, for example, oh, we looked at today's temperature. Oh, it's 20 degrees Celsius. Nice. Look at tomorrow's temperature. Oh, it's 10 degrees Celsius. You look at yesterday's temperature. Oh, it's 50 degrees Celsius, for example. That's data analysis. You've gotten your answer. What's today's temperature? Now, in data analytics, what you're now doing now, you're now studying patterns. So based on the record that you get on daily basis, or monthly basis, or weekly basis, or annual basis, you've now discovered a pattern. Let's say, oh, once it's mid-year, it's now it's a rainy season. Do you understand? Let's say you can now say, oh, plant so thing. For example, you're a farmer. What will data science do? Data science will now build a weather app or weather app that predicts the week's forecast and send alerts to your phone. So what data science will now do? Okay, based on the kind of record that we've had so far and the kind of analysis that I've done, once it's mid-year, it's rainy season and it's time to plant. So data science will now send you sort of a reminder based on the analysis you've done. And then all of those things are done automatically. They're automated. So where a data analyst fits in everything we do. Now let's place the data analyst in this picture. Who is now a data analyst? Think of a data analyst as a bridge between data or the raw facts and the people who make decisions, like managers, business owner, doctors, and every other person you can think about. These are referred to as stakeholders. So you're a bridge between them. Because all of these people own businesses, right? They want to make decisions based on the data that they have, but they cannot do anything with it because they are not skilled. So you, as a data analyst that has learned all of these skills, you've learned how to collect, you've learned how to clean, you've learned how to analyze, you've now learned how to visualize, you've learned how to interpret. So you become a bridge. Without you, they cannot survive because they need to make decisions. And they know real well that guessing is not the best option. So they want to make decisions based on facts, based on evidence. So you become a bridge between the data that they have and the decision that they need to make. So you come in to help them to do all of that. So what do? You collect and clean messy data, you organize it into tables, charts, and dashboard. You answer everyday business questions like, oh, how many customers bought our product this week? Which branch made the best sales? Which hat brought the newest clients? So basically, those are the questions you are helping them to answer. Just like I said, why we do data analysis, we answer questions, we solve problems, we find opportunities, etc. Now, what tools do they use, right? Now, basically, 4 tools. Of course, one is optional. We have Excel, that is our spreadsheet. We have SQL, that is SQL Server Management. SQL Server Management Studio. SQL is structured query language. We have 2 of it. We have MySQL and we have SSMS, which is SQL Server Management Studio. And what we use that to do is that we use to pull data from databases. We use Power BI or Tableau. They perform the same function. Either one, you go for it, right? We use it to visualize basically. And also, this is optional, which is Python. You can learn Python. When you learn Python, it gives you an edge. Now, oftentimes when people hear Python, they want to run away. No, it is actually very, very, very easy. So how do you become an expert in this? Is to learn these 4 tools that we have here. Basically, once you learn them, then you become an expert and you become valuable in any organization or any industry. I'm using the word any in capital letters. So why does this matter, right? Managers, which are the stakeholder, they don't have time. And even if they have time, they don't have this skill because what they're all about is what? The business itself. So they don't have this skill to make sense of what all of this data. They can't go through 1,000 rows of data. Some people are generating like 1,000,000 data on daily basis. What they are interested in, the fact they just want answers. So data analysts, they are like translators, right? They translate messy data into clear insight. So for example, 2 particular companies, what they call a deal. One is, let's say, Nigerian, one is like Indian. They don't understand English. The other does not understand does not understand India. What happens? A translator is employed and the translator does what? Translate whatever is being said. And afterwards, they can do everything smoothly. Right? Imagine the translator is a bad translator, is not good at whatever is doing. There's going to be a problem at the end of the day. Do you understand? Same thing with data analysts, right? You are a translator. Your job is a very, very, very fragile job. It's a very, very delicate job. When I mean fragile and delicate, I'm not saying it's a job that you can easily lose where you have that particular skill. What I'm trying to say is the fact that what you do go a very long way to either help a business, right? Or to crash that business because they need to make a decision on that business and they need your skill. Every industry. So who is a data analyst? A data analyst is a professional, right? That collects, clean, organizes, and interprets data to help individuals and organizations make better decisions. So they are not just number crunchers, no, they are problem solvers. So if you are a data analyst, you are a problem solver. And what they do is that they translate raw data into meaningful insights. I want to believe this is very, very clear. What data analysis? Data analysis is just a process of you collecting data, organizing data, cleaning this data, analyzing data so that organization can make better decisions. And you as a data analyst, that is your job. You are a problem solver. Now, as a data analyst, what are the mindsets you have to have? Number one, curiosity. Always asking questions. Why did this happen? Remember, you are solving problem. You are finding solution. So you are always curious. Why did this happen? Or what does this actually mean? Number two, you must have problem-solving mindsets. You must have problem-solving mindsets. So you are seeing data not just as rows and columns, but as clues to answer real world questions. So you may see some data, about 1 million of them. You're not just seeing numbers, you're not just seeing text, you're not just seeing pictures. What you are saying is, oh, this can actually solve real life problems. Okay. Also, another mindset you have is storytelling, right? Because at the end of the day, that data, you're going to tell a story with it, right? Of course, these are also skills that you learn in this whole data analysis journey. So you are turning findings into clear explanation that anyone, even a non-technical person, can understand. Your job as a data analyst, when you are done with everything you are doing, is that you are able to explain to a non-technical person and they understand whatever is going on. And also value-driven, focused on how insights can save time, reduce cost, or increase growth. A lot of people want to save time. They want to do things faster. They want to reduce cost. They want to grow. So you as a data analyst, this is where you come in. So you think of a data analyst as a detector. You are a police officer. What is the evidence? The evidence is the data. The questions are the cases, and the insights are the solution. So you are a translator, you are a detector, you are a chef because you are cooking as a data analyst. Now, what are the key traits of a successful data analyst? You have attention to details. You must have, you must be able to reason logically. You must be able to communicate well. Adaptability, comfortable learning new tools or techniques as technology changes. Tomorrow, they can come up and say another tool is out for this analysis. You must be able to go for it. Collaboration, that is, you work with teams and every other person. And ethics. This is very, very important. Of course, when you get into data space, you understand all of this much more better. Now, let's look at real life stories of data analysts. Of course, I'm not talking about individuals here, or let me say data analysis or data analytics. Now, for example, the supermarket example. Now they have this question: why are bananas not selling? So imagine a large supermarket chain notice that their banana sales have dropped by 30% in the last 3 months. The managers are worried. Everybody is worried. Banana used to be top seller. So what is going on? So what happens? A data analyst is called in because you are the boss. Without you, they cannot do anything. You have your skills. So what do? You collect their data. You gather sales record, you gather prices, you gather the time they deliver, and even weather reports. You gather everything needed. What do? All these results that you have gathered, you clean and organize it. That is, you remove duplicate entries and all of that. Those are part of technical skills that you learn. And after doing that, what happens? You analyze, you discover, oh, something interesting is here. You discover that banana deliveries were often late, so bananas arrived already turning brown. And the fourth one now says that customers don't want to buy fruits that look old. Thanks to the data analyst, the supermarket realized the issues wasn't bananas are unpopular. The problem was the supply chain. They fixed the delivery schedules and sales went up back. So imagine what a data analyst has done here. Just because he has this particular skill, he was able to solve a problem. Because managers of this particular organization, they are already worried. Then the data analyst just came in and it made things easier. So what is the lesson here? That data analyst doesn't just report sales drop, they find out why. And after finding why, they provide solution. Another example here, the hospital example. What do they want to do? They want to reduce patient waiting time. So at a busy hospital, patients complain that they waited too long before seeing the doctor. Management wanted to fix this, but they didn't even know what was causing the delay. So what can they do? They can't just guess. So happen a data analyst step in because you are the boss, you are carrying your shoulder pad. Then what do? You pull out record. You pull patient time arrival, put appointment schedule, pull doctor availability data, and every other thing. And after doing that, after pulling it out, after cleaning it, then you analyze and you found the bottleneck. Most patients arrived early in the morning, but there were not enough doctors scheduled during that time. So what happens? The data analyst recommended shifting more doctors to the morning shift. And what happens? Problem solved. Waiting time dropped from 2 hours to 40 minutes. Just like that. Patients were happier and doctors were less stressed rather. Simple. And what is the lesson here? Data analysts help improve customer or patient experience using evidence, not guesswork. Now, another example here, the online store example, that is boosting sales with insights. An online clothing store noticed that many customers visited their website but left without buying anything. So what happened? The data analyst investigated. Number one, study the website traffic data, customer click, and abandoned shopping cart. Step two, they discovered that many people abandoned their carts when they saw the high delivery fee at checkout. So what happens? The analyst suggests offering free delivery for orders above 20,000. Simple. So if you are trying to buy something about 15,000 and you say that, oh, if you are buying something over 20,000, what happens? You're going to get your delivery fee will be waived. So what happens? Look for a way to just move your whatever you're buying to 20,000 naira. And sales went up because customers felt that they were getting a better deal. How were they able to solve this particular problem? Data analysis. Who did it? A data analyst. So what is the lesson here? Data analysts help companies increase revenue by understanding customer behavior. So you can see that the job of a data analyst is so beautiful, so interesting. Now, the back example, it helps to prevent fraud. Now, a bank noticed some unusual activities. A bank noticed some unusual activities in customer accounts. Small amount of money disappearing. Now, a data analyst was asked to investigate. So you see how all these banks, they are detecting fraud and preventing fraud. Who does it? It's actually the work of a data analyst. So what does a data analyst do? They collected transaction record across thousands of accounts. And of course, they use the analytical tools and skills. Then they spot patterns, and the same suspicious account number kept receiving tiny transfer. So the data analyst flagged it as fraud. The bank freezes a suspicious account and protected customers. The bank saved millions of naira and protected its reputation. So what is a lesson here? Data analysts help to protect organization by spotting hidden risk and fraud. So you can see that the importance of data analysis in this instance cannot be overemphasized. What about the school example? It helps students succeed. Now, at the secondary school, teachers noticed that some students kept failing math, even though they tried hard. So that is a problem. How do they solve it? A data analyst working in that school looked at the exam results, attendance record, and study hours. They saw that the students who missed morning classes often scored lower. After interviewing the teacher, they discovered that morning classes covered the most difficult math topics. The school started free evening tutorial for those who missed morning section. What is the end result? Score improved and fewer students failed. So what is the lesson here? Data analysts don't just work in businesses. They can improve education and learning outcome. So why does all of this story matters, right? This example shows that data analyst is not just someone who makes charts. We're not just drawing graph. No. They are detectors and they solve real problems. Data analysts, their job saves money, it improves lives, it increases sales, and it makes system much more efficient. So you can say as a data analyst, you are as valuable as every other person out there. In fact, very much valuable when you have these skills. So wherever there are questions, wherever there are problems or wherever there is a decision to be made, a data analyst is like a flashlight in the dark. They help improve people. They help people see clearly. So as a data analyst, or you have this skill, you have the data analytics skill, you are like a flashlight in the dark. Imagine everywhere is so dark, and then someone turns on the light. So you, the light, or rather the light that was turned on, that is data analysis. Because once the light is turned on, what happened? You can now see clearly and say, oh, okay, so what I'm looking for is actually here. What I want to pick is actually here. Where I want to sit is actually here. That is data analysis. What you help people to do is that you help people to see clearly. So thank you very much. I want to believe this particular training or this particular explanation, you've understood what data analysis is all about, the various steps in the data analysis. And yeah, basically, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you listening to. And also anticipate, or rather, there's another video where I'll be explaining why you should learn data analysis. Why you should learn data analysis. Of course, if you're very much interested, reach out, and of course, you'll get a link to that video where I explained why you should learn data analysis in this time and season. I even want to believe that based on this particular video that you've watched, you know why you should learn data analysis. But of course, I've gone much deeper and I have much more in depth in that particular video where I explained why everyone should actually have the knowledge of data analysis. Thank you very much, and I'll see you some other time. Bye.